What the Delegated Act does is lay down provisions of the composition of the unique identifier. And the first thing that we need to underline is that we have gone for full harmonization of the composition of the number and of the data carrier. So in terms of composition of the number, the unique identifier will contain product code, a serial number unique per pack, a national reimbursement or identification number if requested by member states, because, open parenthesis, the Falsified Medicines Directive leaves the member states free to extend the application of the unique identifier for reimbursement reasons. The batch number and expiry date. The carrier will be a 2D barcode, a data matrix, and the structure of the unique identifier will be ISO compliant. Second point that is important to make is how will the safety features, and in particular the unique identifier, be verified. The principle of the system is that, which is reflected in the provision of the delegated regulation as the Commission has adopted and submitted to Council and Parliament for scrutiny, is that we have an end-to-end verification system with a checking in of every single pack into the repository at national and European level at the moment of manufacturing, so when it leaves the manufacturing line, and a systematic checkout at the dispensing point, in particular pharmacies, a dispensation to patients. On top of this, the Delegated Act, and this has been the subject of quite some consultation, in particular with distributors. Wholesale distributors will have to verify the safety features of individual packs when they obtain these packs, not from a manufacturing or marketing authorization holders, not from the producer, but horizontally from other wholesalers or as returns from pharmacies. This is important to underline. So basically the structure of the system is an end-to-end system. Every single unique identifier will be checked in at production and decommissioned at dispensation. Plus, as I said, these particular cases of verification at wholesaler level. The repository system, as I've mentioned a moment ago, the Commission, following the impact assessment, has decided to go for a stakeholder model. We consider different possible approaches, a network of national, publicly held and managed repositories, a mega repository managed by the bureaucrats in Brussels, or a stakeholder system. We have gone for the stakeholder system because the impact seemed to be the most cost efficient and effective, and also because we have a clear hint given to us by the legislator when the legislator says manufacturers shall pay. One of the clear points that we have to make, and this has been done in clear agreement and consultation with national authorities, is the principle of full supervision by competent authorities of every single repository and the hub. It's true, the repository is developed and the hub are developed and are managed by stakeholders, and I'm particularly grateful to see that the EMVO, European Medicines Verification Organization, which is a coalition of the willing, composed in non-particular order of FPA, so the originators, the European Generics Association, PGU, which is the pharmaceutical group of the European Union, community pharmacies, and EAPC, the parallel traders, and GIRP, the full line wholesalers, is already up and running, and that activities are starting at national level. We really hope, and it's going to be one of the tasks of which more later for, in particular, 2016 and 2017, to go out and preach the word of early preparedness and implementation of the delegated regulation. In terms of main features, the repository system must ensure possibility, as I was mentioning, by relevant competent authorities to supervise and have access to everything that is going on within the different repositories. Interoperability among the repositories and between the repositories and European repository. The protection of commercially confidential information and personal data, absolutely. And virtually instantaneous response. When a pack is scanned, a dispensation, if something is wrong, the alert must go on right away. It goes without saying that as with nearly all European legislation, member states will be in charge of enforcing the requirements of the Act. White and blacklist. This also has been the subject of much conversation. We had member states coming from different angles, very different angles. I think we have been able here as well to find the right meeting point between and synthesis between the different positions. The rule laid out clearly by the legislator is that prescription medicines must bear the safety features. Non-prescription medicines may not bear the safety features. This is what clearly shall and shall not mean in European rules. There have been some funny moments because there were translation discrepancies, in particular as concerned the German version of the regulation, of the Falsified Medicines Directive. The Council itself has rectified this, and now all the versions are aligned. There are, as I was mentioning, and this is provided for by the legislator, possible exceptions if justified by the assessment of risks of and arising from falsification. And the list of exceptions is included in the Delegated Act. So what are this list of exceptions? The legislator makes it clear in our view that exceptions shall be exceptions and not the rule. We have gone, even though the situation on the ground is really complex, there are really only very few medicines and very few molecules, for instance, that are OTC across the 28 member states. But we have gone for the principle of a single set of lists, European, one white list and one black list. The list can be populated or depopulated also on the basis of risk of falsification and of the risks arising from falsification. The criteria for assessing the falsification risk are set by the Falsified Medicines Directive, and I'll not mention them. As I said before, exceptions are exceptions are exceptions. So at this point, you will have seen the list because the delegated regulation adopted by the Commission is publicly available, although we are not supposed to comment much. The Commission is not supposed to comment much because we are in the period of scrutiny by the European Parliament and Council, so the delegated regulation is not in force. It will be in force if the Parliament and Council agree to it 20 days after its publication, and then I'll give you the details in a second. As I was mentioning before, member states can extend the scope of the unique identifier to all prescription or reimbursed medicines. So all the medicines that are reimbursed, plus all the prescription medicines that the Commission has put on the white list. And of the anti-tampering devices, basically to all medicines. I mean, the conditions are virtually non-existent. So there will be discrepancies between member states. The lists are included in the Delegated Act. Conclusion. I'm going to repeat what I just said, but when you go to a public speaking course, they tell you, when you go and speak in public, say what you're going to say, then say what you have to say, then repeat what you just said. So, the delegated regulation, which those of you who are interested in it will have seen, as adopted by the Commission, lays down the principles and provisions for a medicines authentication system, which will comprise a fully harmonized unique identifier carried in a 2D barcode, a principle of systematic verification of the safety features of unique identifier, check-in at manufacturing, check-out at dispensation with risk-based verification by wholesale distributors with the condition that I mentioned before. And finally, to manage all this, a backbone consisting of a system of interoperable repositories established and managed by stakeholders under the supervision by competent authorities and held together by a hub at European level. In terms of application, as I mentioned, the delegated regulation was adopted by the Commission recently on the 2nd of October. Publication in the official journal, if the Council and Parliament do not object to the delegated regulation, is expected either by mid-December or by mid-February, and this means that two things. Council and Parliament may not amend or propose amendments to the delegated regulation. They might only accept it or reject it. They have 2 months to do so. This is the regular scrutiny, but they are free, and they usually do, most of the time they do, ask for a 2-month extension. So this leads us either to December or to February. The legislator provided for application 3 years after the entry into force of the Delegated Act, which, as I mentioned before, is 20 days after its publication in the official journal, but the legislator itself provides for exceptions for member states, which are Belgium, Greece, and Italy, which already have in place systems which do pretty much what the requirements of the Falsified Medicines Directive in this area require. And as I said, this is the case for Belgium, Greece, and Italy. Quite extraordinarily, the legislator provides for an extension of the deadline for entry into application for these 3 countries of another 6 years. So we're talking about a deadline, a last possible deadline of 2025 for Belgium, Italy, and Greece. We are discussing, we had a meeting of the expert group on Monday, where we have discussed briefly this as well. I mean, it's clear that this is a latest possible deadline, and we have first indications from at least 1 or 2 of these member states that they're working towards a shorter horizon, hopefully. That would be it for me. Thank you very much for listening. So, given that time is tight also, and you have a very dense program today, there is some time for question and answer. For practical reasons, if you allow me, it's not very sexy, but I received already via GS1, and I'm very grateful, 3 very good questions. Since they come from participants already, and for efficiency's sake, I will go through them directly. The first questions concern the proactive application of the safety measures, and I was asked, are the manufacturers allowed to apply protectively the safety measures before the repositories are in place, and if yes, shall the manufacturer upload the related data in the repository retrospectively once they are live? The anti-tampering device may be placed before the application of the Act. The unique identifier, however, should only be placed once there is an operational live repository where the unique identifier data can be uploaded. No retroactive uploading should be permitted, since the marketing authorization holder would not know which packs were sold or exported, etc. The retroactive uploading would result in the incorrect uploading in the system of code, which should actually be decommissioned. The second question had to do with the definition of manufacturer and the fact that the delegated regulation mentioned several times the responsibility of the manufacturer, in particular Chapter 4, Article 14. And the question is the company applying physically the safety features, or is it the company that is legally registered as the manufacturer in the registration dossier? The very short answer is that the term manufacturer in the text of the delegated regulation is used to indicate the holder of a manufacturing and import authorization ex Article 40 of Directive 2001/83 EC. More in detail, the term manufacturer of a medicinal product bearing the safety features means any holder of a manufacturer or import authorization who manufactures either totally or partially the product in question. Those manufacturers can, of course, be found in the marketing authorization dossier of a product. It should be noted, however, several provisions of the delegated regulation are quite specific with regard to who is the addressee of the provision. This is the case of Article 14, for example, which is addressed to the manufacturer placing the safety features, i.e. the manufacturer physically applying the unique identifier and anti-tampering device on every pack. And the third question concerns aggregation, with reference to page 9, paragraph 20. Gee, we have people reading what we write, actually. That's really comforting. Where the delegated regulation adopted by the Commission states that the simultaneous verification of multiple unique identifiers can be performed with an aggregated code. However, goes the question in Article 33, the upload of an aggregated code to the repository system is not foreseen. The short answer is that the Act does not regulate aggregation, it does not require it, but it does not prohibit it either. Article 33(2) lays down minimum requirements. It mentions that at least, and I underline and the emphasis is mine, at least the following information shall be uploaded. There is no prohibition to upload aggregated codes. So in a nutshell, if this uploading respects all the provisions of the delegated regulation, this is not prohibited.
Thank you very much, Stefano. That was very helpful, and I guess answering most of the questions the audience already had. But is there any additional question? There is one. Yes, please. Oh, there is two.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, the question I have is, there's been some discussion or rumor that there may be a question and answer document that may come out in coordination with the delegated acts. And in particular, some mention about the fact that two-dimensional barcodes may be allowable. I wondered if you had comments on either of those points.
Thank you very much. I have comments in particular on the first one. Yes, we are working on, we've started work on a Q&A document together with the member states, and this has been one of the main subjects discussed with the expert group last Monday. It will be, as usual for this kind of documents, an informal, so non-legally binding, and live and flexible document. We welcome those who have good questions to propose them to us. We will consider them and see together with the member states authorities what we can do with them. So yes, the second one, in a nutshell, the Falsified Medicines Directive, and we make it quite specific in the regulation as well. The only identifier which is present of the pack, which is there in order to meet the requirements of the Falsified Medicines Directive, is one only.
Thank you very much, Stefano. There is another question.
Once the delegated act or the system is running, at the point of suspension, the code is read, and in the database, most probably will be an indication if the product is sold. For the manufacturer, will it be possible to download those data to see if his product is sold, yes or no?
I think that question may be for the next speaker, if I may. But Stefano, if you have
possibly, but I have to tell you one thing about which I want to be very clear here. We are not foreseeing a system that allows the use of information for purposes other than those provided for by the Falsified Medicines Directive. And in particular, the protection of commercially confidential information, which is a legitimate concern of manufacturers, distributors, and all the operators in the legitimate supply chain, might be cast iron solid.
Thank you, that's very clear. Anyone else? I see no more hands. So Stefano, thank you very, very much. And we wish you a very nice travel. And I hope...
Thank you. Thank you very much for providing this opportunity. I mean, once we're not doing it proactively now, but if and when the legislator supports the text of the Commission, I hope that we won't be sent back to the drawing board because we'll have to start from scratch. We will go and intend to do this rather proactively and aggressively out on the field in Europe to promote and incentivize the implementation of the rules, because this has a lot of impact. It's momentous, it's big, it's complex, and it requires a lot of explanation. So thank you for providing an early opportunity.
And you will always be welcome to join us. So I hope you will be feeling better. And with this, we can close the video.
Bye-bye.
Bye.